Hi and welcome, and what we're going to have a look in today's video is how we divide decimals. So it's not as straightforward to divide decimals without a calculator, but I'm going to show you a method that will work and will be quite useful and help you with a little bit of your multiplication and so on as well, and your division too. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the question so that it looks a bit different. We're going to change the divisor, the number that we're dividing by, so that it is an integer. It's a whole number. Doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, but we just want it to be a whole number. That becomes so much easier. To do that, what we need to do is multiply both the dividend, the first number, and the divisor by a suitable power of 10. So what that means is we're going to multiply both of them by 10 or 100 or 1,000, etc., just so that our divisor is no longer a decimal. It doesn't matter if our first number, our dividend, is an integer or not. It can still be a decimal, but what is important is that the divisor is an integer. Okay? And what you'll find is an algorithm will be quite useful in doing these divisions. So let's look at some examples. So our first example, what we're going to do is we want to determine the value of 1.2 divided by 3. So you notice that our divisor, it's already an integer, so we don't need to change the question at all. I don't care that the dividend's a decimal, but it's this divisor that's important. It makes things a lot easier when that is an integer. So let's set up an algorithm. We want to know how many 3's fit into 1.2. So let's start to do our division like we've learnt. So 3's into 1 don't go, so 0. What I'm going to do is to cross out that 1 and share it over with our next digit. So that's now becomes a 12. Our decimal point's going to line up, so let's put it up there now. You could have put it up there in the first place, it doesn't matter. And now we go 3's into 12 go 4, no remainder. So what we find is that 1.2 divided by 3 is 0.4. And it's fairly much that straightforward. So we just keep following that process. However, what we're going to find in the next few examples is that our divisor is not going to be an integer. So let's look at our second example, 8.4 divided by 0.7. Well, you'll notice that our divisor this time, this 0.7, it's not an integer, so we need to make it one. So in this case, to make that an integer, there's one number after the decimal point, so that means we're going to multiply it by 10. If I had two numbers after the decimal point, then I would multiply it by 100. But I've got to do the same to the dividend as well. So now, if I multiply 8.4 times 10, I get 84. And if I multiply 0.7 by 10, I get 7. And what we now have is the question 84 divided by 7. So, set up our algorithm. 7's into 8 go once, with one remainder. So that remainder comes over to the 4 and is 14. And 7 into 14 goes 2, so I get 12. So now, 8.4 divided by 0.7 is 12. So let's look at a third example. 0.054 divided by 0.04. So our divisor here is not an integer. So to make it an integer, I need to multiply. There are two numbers after the decimal point, so I need to multiply it by 100. All right, 2 zeros in 100. Got to move it 2 places to the right. So that means I've got to multiply both of them by 100. I can't just multiply the divisor, I'll multiply both of them. So the divisor, when I multiply by 100, will become 4. And when I multiply this one by 100, it becomes 5.4. Okay, so we've got 5.4 divided by 4 is the question now. So let's set up our algorithm. Okay, so 4's into 5 go once, remainder 1, decimal points lining up. 4's into 14, well, it goes 3 times, and then I've got a remainder of 2. So I'm going to write my remainder of 2 there, but there's no digit afterwards, so I'm going to put a 0 in there. And now we go 4's into 20, and that goes 5. So now what we get is 0.054 divided by 0.04 ends up being 1.35. So fairly straightforward once we make this divisor an integer. Okay, it becomes quite simple then. So a fourth example, 1.02 divided by 0.003. So the divisor is not an integer. There are 3 digits after the decimal points. That means I need to multiply it by 1,000 to make it an integer. So I've got to multiply both parts, the dividend and the divisor, by 1,000. So let's do that. So when we do that, move the 1, 2, 3 places to the right, so we get 1,020. Move the decimal point 3 places to the right on the divisor, and we get 3. So there's our new question, 1,020 divided by 3. Set up our algorithm. 3's into 1, well, don't go. So cross out that and carry it over. 3's into 10 become 3. 1 remainder comes over to the 2 and becomes a 12. 3's into 12 become 4. And 3's into 0, 0. So that will give us our answer of 1.02 divided by 0.003 as 340. So 0.003 goes into 1.02 340 times. So I hope you found that useful. This is how to divide decimals without a calculator. But what you now need to do is to practice some more, and practice again. And the more that you do that, the easier it will become. So thanks for watching.